Hello, Anna Mack here. Apologies for the lateness of this episode. It was supposed to come out last week, but September has been such a busy month for us that it just kept getting pushed back, so we are releasing it today. If you didn't make it out to the Sperduti Farms Fall Harvest Festival the past 2 weekends, you can still get Mary Mac Bakehouse mixes, fresh baked goods, and a ton of other stuff from our local vendors at Standing Chimney this Saturday, October 5th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, go to standingchimney.com.
Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're going to Eastern Europe / the Mediterranean / across the water from Italy for our recipe. This recipe comes from the Balkans. This is a Bosnian recipe. So Bosnia and Herzegovina is across the sea. I think it's the Aegean Sea. I'm probably going to blow that one. Okay. Anyway, if you were in Italy and you were standing facing southern Italy and you pointed left, that would be where Bosnia and Herzegovina is. It's a really interesting part of the world. The foods and the people are very diverse because it's a part of the world that's been traveled through so often for thousands of years. It's like a trade route, and it's influenced by so many other countries around it as far as its food goes, and the population is very diverse. So you get a lot of different flavors in the Balkans, in that region of the world. You get a lot of different flavors from there. There's a few things that are shared between the region. One of them is this fantastic spread that's made from red peppers and eggplant, and it's like a condiment. Like, I would say it's probably used like people use ketchup in the United States. You know, you can put it on a sandwich, you can dip things into it, you can eat it on bread. This is like roasted red peppers ground up with roasted eggplant and garlic and some other spices, and it's, oh my gosh, it's delicious. It's one of those things. It's just like it's the condiment of the region. That is a typical Balkan thing that's shared throughout that region of the world. And this soup, this is probably the signature soup of the region that we're going to do today. This is called, we'll give it 3 names here. So it's okra soup. It doesn't have a ton of okra in it, so I don't know why it's called okra soup. However, it's also called Baze soup, or the actual Bosnian name of it is Begova Korba. It's a traditional Bosnian soup, and it's known for its creamy texture. Now, when you get out of the United States, like in the United States, our soups are kind of like stews. Like, we put a lot of ingredients into our soups. They're just full of stuff. In other parts of the world, soups are actually soups where they have a very rich broth and a few ingredients in it, so they're more, soupy, made to put your crackers in and soak up some of that broth. This soup is a really interesting, it's different from anything I've ever made. As far as the flavor of it and as far as the technique of it, it was a really interesting soup to make. The recipe that I got was kind of all over the place, so I tried to consolidate it and make it more like a recipe that I would make. Hopefully I do this right and say this right, but if not, there will be a written version of it that will hopefully not be as insane sounding as this is. But there's a few, like I said, interesting techniques in there, interesting flavors. I'm going to give you the ingredients kind of in sections because this has multiple steps to it, and then put it together and finish it out. First thing you're going to do is make your broth. You're going to get a large pot and put 2 quarts of water in it. And then we're going to add our broth ingredients to that water. For your broth, you will need 1 or 2 chicken pieces. So you can use 2 chicken thighs. You can use a chicken breast. I actually used a skinless, boneless chicken breast because I had it. I think it would be good if you used bone-in chicken also to flavor your broth because of the soup bones. I made it actually 2 different times. One time I used a bone-in chicken breast, And then the second time I made it, I used boneless chicken breast, and it was good both times. And I would say you need about 1 pound of chicken, not a lot of chicken. So 1 pound is good. You could even use drumsticks if you wanted to, but I think a thigh or a breast would be best there. You need 1 onion, a pretty, like a medium-sized onion, peeled and halved. You'll need 1 large carrot, peeled, 2 to 3 celery sticks, and I did learn this. Make sure your celery isn't too green, because the second time I made my soup, it was very green due to the fact that my celery was very green. So you'll need 2 to 3 nice-sized celery sticks, a bunch of fresh parsley if you can get it. If you cannot, dried parsley works fine, and that would be about a tablespoon of dried parsley. And you'll need 2 medium-sized potatoes, like russet potatoes or Yukon Gold work really well. Then you will need 1 bay leaf, a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of pepper, and then you need stock powder here. So there's a powder that they use in the Balkans, a flavoring powder they use that's called Vegeta, Vegeta. You can get that off of Amazon if you want to get it. If not, vegetable broth powder works great. And that would be like you could use a vegetable broth bouillon cube or vegetable broth powder, and you would need 2 tablespoons of the vegetable broth. So if you're going to use Vegeta, you would use 1 tablespoon of the vegetable broth powder and 1 tablespoon of Vegeta. If you don't have that, you can use 2 tablespoons of vegetable broth powder or 2 bouillon cubes. You're going to put all of these in the pot together, and you're going to bring that to a nice simmer, and you're going to cook that for about a half hour, I would say. You want the potatoes and the carrot to be very, very soft, and you want your chicken to be cooked. When that's done, you're going to take everything out of the broth. So use a slotted spoon, take the chicken out and set it on a plate, and then have a bowl and take all of the vegetables out and put them into the bowl and get everything out of there that you can get out of there. And then just leave your broth there on the stove, and you can keep that simmering. Now, I waited a bit before I did the next step because everything is pretty hot. So your chicken, just cover your chicken with some foil while it's on the plate and let that cool before you get to your next step. For your vegetables, you're going to put that carrot, the onion, the 2 potatoes, and the celery sticks into a blender with a little bit of the broth, and you're going to grind that up until it is an absolutely smooth puree. I mean, you can use a stick blender and do this also, but I found it worked much better putting it in my blender. So whatever the way you want to do it is fine, but I just put it all in the blender and pulsed through several times until it was very nice and smooth, sort of a, I don't know what you would call that. It just was a very nice, smooth mixture of vegetables, okay? Oh, take the bay leaf out. Don't blend up the bay leaf. I forgot to mention that. You do not want to blend up that bay leaf. Just throw that away, okay? But everything else gets blended up except the chicken. Now, once you have that stuff all blended, pureed, nice and smooth, pour that back into the broth and give it a stir. You want to blend that back into the broth. Now on to the next step. You're going to need 1 more carrot. You're going to clean that, peel it, cut it up. What I did was I quartered it, so I cut it in half again, and I cut those little quarters up into small pieces, and then I steamed those in the microwave for 2 minutes. So just cut up 1 carrot, quarter it, cut it into small pieces, put a little bit of water on it, and put that in the microwave for about 2 minutes just to get that par cooked. Once you have that cooked, drain the water off of it and put that into your prepared broth that's on the stove. Next, your okra. You need a half a pound of okra sliced into 1/2-inch rounds. If you do not have fresh okra, you can use frozen, and frozen okra comes already sliced. So you only need a half pound of it, and you're going to take that and put it right into your broth on the stove. So now you have your carrots and your okra in your broth. Now back to the chicken. Take your chicken, if it was a chicken thigh or whatever, debone it, take the skin off, take as much fat off of it as you can, and you're going to shred that up and put that into the broth. If you used a chicken breast, obviously the same thing. If it had bones and skin, remove those and just shred up the chicken and put that into your broth. So now in your broth, you have your carrot, your okra, and your chicken. And stir that around. Now we're going to make a roux to put in there. I've never heard of this type of a roux before, but it worked really, really well. So what you need to make this is you need 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 egg yolk, and you're going to take that egg yolk, put it in your bowl, beat it up a little bit, and add your flour and mix that up really, really well. Then, very slowly, stir in a cup of the broth from your pot. Just stir that in a little bit at a time and blend it in there until it's very well blended and thickened. And it'll come out, it'll be very nice and smooth and slightly thickened. And then you're going to pour that into your soup and stir that in really, really well so that it thickens your broth and your soup. And now you're going to just let that cook. It's going to be sitting there on your stove, lightly simmering, just for about another half hour or so until all of the flavors can blend. When you serve this, you can garnish this with more parsley. So you can take your fresh parsley, chop it up, sprinkle on the top. You can use your dried parsley if that's what you have and sprinkle that on the top. And serve this with bread and butter, and it is a wonderful meal. It's just a delicious soup. It's such an interesting and unique flavor. It's one of those things like if you don't like okra, the amount of okra that's in it is such a small amount that it just adds this very mild okra flavor to it. The rest of the flavors, like the vegetables that you ground up and blend into it, you get this wonderful background flavor, and it's just a very, very good soup. So try this the next time you want to make a soup and make something different. This is pretty basic ingredients as far as that goes. The only oddball thing here is okra that you'd have to find. So you could even use canned okra in this, I think. Okra comes canned in a 15-ounce can. So you would have to drain it and rinse it and then put that in your soup. And that would probably work just fine too. But this is it's a very good soup. We really enjoyed it. But for goodness sakes, don't use super green celery in it because the second batch I made was a very funny color. So remember that. I hope you give this recipe a try because we really enjoyed it.
And make sure to check us out online on Facebook and Threads at Mary Mac Bakehouse, on Instagram at Mary Mac Bakehouse and Mary Mac Podcast, on our website, marymacbakehouse.com, and in person this Saturday, October 5th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Standing Chimney.
Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.